has caused me great grief. One of the things that I am going to try to much faster on battles, historically the AP exam does not do a lot in terms of detail. They will expect you to know major battles, they'll expect you to know kind of the cause of the war, but we will go much quicker on the battles. We will focus mostly just on what is the significance of it, what was the military style, versus sort of the details of individual battles. And again, the main reason is we are trying to both save some time, and you will not be going into hardcore military tactics for the test. Yes, major battles, you need to know where they were, what war they were, and why or what does it cause. I believe yesterday we got to the word, and I think it should be our fifth problem with England, was the word warhawk. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, the word warhawk has nothing to do with this specific chapter per se. Warhawk is a term that is still used today. A war hawk is a person who, by what you can probably figure, is a person who supports war. So as we are talking about the problem with England, these are generally congressmen. They are powerful, successful men. These are men in Congress. And folks, in this chapter, warhawks support war largely out of pride. They believe that what England is doing, if you look at the list of the other 4 items, they are insulting America. They are not respecting America. Can anyone tell me, whether it be in the War of 1812, in Vietnam, or any other crisis in between, what would be the opposite group of a hawk? It's a dove. So ladies and gentlemen, whether you write it here or you know it or you write it in a later unit, just so you know, and Vietnam is a prime example of this. The people who would be going against, we don't want this war, it's not a good idea, they are called doves. The people who are arguing war, in this case, for national pride, that is the hawk. Does everybody got the 5 issues? And folks, does everybody understand, when I keep saying the 5, these are things that are causing tension, problems, or desire. For example, taking Canada. Is everybody good right now? Can anyone please identify what is the 6th underlying, and again, you don't need to write it as a 6th, what is the underlining factor that is honestly encouraging the United States to look at and seriously consider this option of aggression towards our former mother? Don't you hate big words and long sentences? That's where some of you get screwed up on the test. The question becomes long and your brains go, I give up. Ladies and gentlemen, I gave you 5 reasons we are mad at England. What I'm asking is, what is the underlining factor that is really making America so aggressive? Sure, but that's warhawks. You're missing something.
They don't respect the individuality.
They absolutely don't, but you're missing something. Ladies and gentlemen, what those 5 factors are saying is we are debating declaring war on the most powerful nation on earth. What would give us such arrogance? Search Caesar and impress me.
We beat them at the revolution.
Ooh, aren't you a cocky little thing? Maybe.
We won them already.
Ladies and gentlemen, so sometimes when you look at these things, there is something that is really important that we are not saying out loud. We expect everybody to know. And so far, nobody has figured it out.
Won't they be a little hesitant if they do declare war on Britain? That would be helping them.
But maybe you're looking at it backwards. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm asking is what really is giving the United States the courage to declare war on England? Ladies and gentlemen, what you need to think of is when you look at the 5 reasons, England is occupied. England is in a major life or death struggle with France. Why does America really believe we can win? Why does America believe that we could get Canada?
Because Napoleon's already fighting.
Napoleon is a much more serious. There's no doubt England has to put most of their attention on the French. The United States, the example I give to my little kids, is think of Napoleon as like a great bear. England is being attacked by a bear, and America is an annoying mosquito. Yes, it's annoying. We don't like mosquitoes, but it's a nuisance. The mosquito, unless it has malaria, I guess, isn't going to kill you. Does everybody understand? Ladies and gentlemen, even though I tell you there's 6 reasons we're mad at England, do not miss the point. What gives us remember in the Revolution, part of our courage is the British had left. Does everybody remember that? When we declared independence, the British had left. The reality is, if we were in 1776, today we don't even say it. If the British didn't leave, we might not have done it. If England was not fighting France, there is almost no chance we would have declared war. First of all, there would be no search, seizure, and impressment, but more importantly, England would be much more ferocious. Before I give you the official declaration of war, we do have one more item, and that will be dissidents. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want, you can call them doves. I don't know if they would call themselves the doves. Does anyone want to take a wild guess what group is going to be the least impressed with this war? What group looks at the 5 reasons and says they're poppycock, stupid, dumb, idiotic? Where is the dissension coming in the country?
Republicans.
So the Democratic Republicans would be arguing we should not go to war with England. The farmers. Who does not want war? So ladies and gentlemen, as we look at politics and things, you guys seem to be confused. And the merchants are what? The Federalists, remember that's what we were talking about the last couple of days. The reality is the Federalists would prefer to be allowed to trade, do what they want. They don't like the Non-Intercourse Act. They don't like the Embargo Act. Historically, the Federalists have supported what nation?
England.
America's our nation.
Oh, yeah.
The Federalists have supported England. Okay? The Democratic Republicans have generally supported France. Look at the reasons. What can a Federalist argue? None of these reasons are worth war. What is the other thing the Federalists are going to argue? Quentin already said it. If you go to war with England, you are indirectly helping. So literally, what the Federalists argue is which is the lesser of two evils, which is the lesser of two poisons. Yes, England is not perfect, but we can deal with. In fact, don't the merchants deal the most with search, seizure, and impressment? The merchants are basically saying we are okay with it. Why go to war with England? Despite all this, things come down to a vote. This is a wonderful vote. On June 18th, the United States of America declares war on England. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is one where if you have trouble with the year of the war that it starts, you have an issue. And I'm not making fun of Griffin. Sometimes you do get those things that are actually kind of trick questions. Absolutely, the war starts in 1812, and that will be the first beginning of its incidents. Here's the cool part. Ladies and gentlemen, on June 18th, we literally declare war. We basically want to kill the English. We put the letter on the next boat, and we send it across the ocean. And you know what is so amazingly cool? On June 24th, remember, there's none of these. There's no telegraph, telephone. On June 24th, the Prime Minister of England, Lord Castlereagh, convinced Parliament to repeal the Orders of Council. So, ladies and gentlemen, we send a declaration of war where we tell the English people we hate them, we despise them, that they are unfair and unjust, and we are going to war to kill them. And literally a few days later, so the two boats are literally going to cross on the ocean. The English basically say, all right, America, we don't want any more problems. We're already busy with the French. We don't think it's fair. Because remember, what is England's argument? France started the trade restrictions. And the only reason Napoleon gave his up is his wasn't working. But on June 24th, the English agreed to concede. And for those of you who have never had a... Yes, sir? Lord Castlereagh is the Prime Minister at the time. And folks, for those of you who've never had a boyfriend or girlfriend, there are certain things in this world you can't say and take back. That's the wonderful advantage of swear words. If you say them, I'm angry. But there are other things, more personal, more real, more direct. Once you tell a person, you can't go, I was joking. I don't really think you have a funny nose that makes you look like a witch.
No.
That was a joke. Ladies and gentlemen, there are things that you can't recall. And once you declare war, so what happens is we declare war, the English basically say, okay, we will work it out, and there's no way to, and again, what is the main thing you want to notice? Communication is a royal problem at this time. So literally, we get a document where England says that they are willing to concede, and we give England a document saying we spit in your face. That's pretty much what happens. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, the War of 1812 begins.
So there's no like taking it back.
That's my point. Trust me, as you get a young little girlfriend, there are things that if you say, maybe with mom and dad, there are things that you cannot pull back. If you declare war on a nation, you can't go, April Fools. It was a joke. We really do not want to kill your people, and we do not want to see them burn. It was a joke. Okay?
But what if
And again, the problem is when you declare war, it's kind of that final statement. Clearly, if we would have, he probably wouldn't have. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a little fun today. I feel like doing something a little bit different.
well, what if they have seen the video?
Sure.
So could they maybe have like
But think about it. England is then going to get their copy, and you think, what is England's reaction? England is now going to be angry. They are like, look, we're sick and tired of you. England is still embarrassed that they lost the revolution the first time, and now these, arrogant little Americans are going to throw it in their face. No, I mean, England is now mad. So even though America might be willing to okay, England's pissed now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see if we can have some fun. By the way, if you're not happy, too bad. Should I pick who I'm going to start with? Nah, that wouldn't be. Oh, okay, Troy. Troy, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go real quick. If you get eliminated, you go to the floor. By the way, you will be taking notes on the floor until you can get back up in the game. Troy, you're first. Please name a woman that some way, shape, or form has been related to the class up to this point.
Ann Hutchins.
Pick someone.
Colin.
You're out.
I
Out.
got you.
Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see if I can come up with another one here in a second so someone can join Colin. You are welcome to turn your desk and use this seat if you would like, or you may just balance it on your lap. Let's see where we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah, name a woman.
Yeah, but why is he out? He didn't name
He didn't name one.
I didn't know what the question was.
Oh yeah, here comes Colin.
Yeah.
All the crying in the world.
I didn't.
Oh, the poor little violin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next item we like to look at is the War of 1812. Folks, the first thing we're going to see in the War of 1812 is we are going to see the beginning of the United States Navy. So, in the War of 1812, remember, and I know some of you got mixed up now, under John Adams, we built the modern United States Navy. Thomas Jefferson stopped. He didn't destroy the ships that had been built, he just did not finish the project. In the beginning of the War of 1812, as the British and the Americans first begin to fight, the fighting starts in the ocean. What we see, what would be kind of the general summary, is the United States actually performs very well. The United States Navy actually shows that our technology can actually rival England. The problem is going to be, we simply do not have enough ships. We could not, match the size of the English. Let me give you a couple of examples, just in case you see them. The most famous ship of the War of 1812 is the USS Constitution. By the way, some of you are going to know, one of the things that irritates me beyond all belief is how uncreative the United States military is with the naming of their ships, and you will see that here in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, the USS Constitution, of course, is nicknamed Old Ironside. Ladies and gentlemen, I remember a couple of years ago, this was during the homecoming, the question was asked, and I saw some people fail miserably. Ladies and gentlemen, Old Ironside is a nickname. Look at the name, Old Ironside. The USS Constitution basically is captained by a man named Isaac Hall, and I believe there's a possibility it's not a bad name to know. But ladies and gentlemen, this is kind of the most famous ship. This is the ship that kind of sort of sets a precedent. It comes up against a British ship named the HMS Guerriere, and I will spell it if you want. Guerriere. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, what happens is the two ships get into a battle. If any of you have seen Pirates of the Caribbean, you know how the ships sort of line up because the guns are on the side and they basically blast at each other? In the battle, the Gutierrez shoots at the USS Constitution, and the story is the cannonballs hit the side. They hit the wood of the USS Constitution, and the wood was so heavy and thick, it was oak, that the cannonballs literally hit it and they bounced off. For that reason, the crew nicknamed it Old Ironside. What is the key component I want to make sure to stress? It's made of wood. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time in history, literally up to the Civil War, ships are made of wood. The iron is simply a nickname. Again, what does the USS Constitution demonstrate? One, it's reminding you of wooden technology. It is also showing us that the ships built by the United States under Adams were very effective, and we did win the first battle. We sunk the Gutierrez. The Constitution actually destroys a second ship called the Java. What was it? No, that'd be Java. This is Java, like coffee. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to do this simply out of my own annoyance. The second ship that was successful, yes, sir?
Do we capture?
Normally you would try to capture them because you can salvage cannons and material. Some of the ships will be captured. For example, the next one will be towed back. Normally the ships are damaged enough that they cannot be salvaged completely, but at least you can scrap. And under maritime law, normally what happens is the crew gets to share in the profits when they sell the material.
And then what about the crew members of the ship that you're attacking?
They will be captured, and then usually you do, at this time in history, prisoner exchanges eventually. The next ship, folks, and I'm going to be honest, I'm doing this largely because of the name of the ship. The next battle, and again, what is the main thing we're trying to show is look at how the U.S. Navy does. It is the USS United States. Now, folks, listen to what the name of the ship is. The proper name of the ship was United States Ship, United States. And it will go up against a ship named Sidonia. Yeah, but that's not our ship. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, what is the item? The United States is victorious. We just sink the Macedonia. And ladies and gentlemen, at this point, what do you want to notice? Again, America's Navy did very well. We see Old Ironside. We see the frigates fighting well. At this point, England has enough of the screwing around, and England is going to change their philosophy. What you notice with the United States and the Constitution is that was the typical fighting on the ocean. The frigates would go off by themselves, and they would look for anything they could find and destroy it. They were kind of lone hunters. After the Macedonia incident, England changes their philosophy to what will be hunting. The English basically announced that their ships will only travel in squadrons of 3 or 4, which basically means if the Americans want to fight, you will have to go up against a larger British fleet. Not only do the British begin to basically patrol in squadrons, the British simply pound the United States with superior numbers. This would happen like October, November. The British send 34 frigates, the entire country. They send 7 ships of the line. That is a ship bigger than a frigate. We have none of those. And they send hundreds of smaller sized ships. Again, let me clarify. Ladies and gentlemen, the USS Constitution of the United States shows success of the United States Navy, but by the end of the year 1812, the United States Navy is effectively eliminated because of the size and numbers of the British Navy. At this point, the only thing the United States Navy can do is either hide or make for the open ocean and become basically a privateer and attack British merchant ships. So literally, the United States Navy showed potential, but we were quickly eliminated. For the rest of the war, the British absolutely, positively controls the ocean. Okay? In fact, in the course of our 2 more American ships will be either captured or destroyed. The USS Sussex was captured off the coast of Chile, and the USS President will actually be sunk off the coast of Africa. So during the war, some of the ships had made for the ocean. The idea was if you make for the ocean, you'd simply go across the ocean and look for English trade ships. That was effective. In fact, dozens of Americans, in fact, if any of you know the Castro family, they actually have diaries that one of their great relatives was a privateer during the Revolution. But the idea of a privateer, folks, is you take your regular boat, you strap a cannon and guns on, and you go out fighting.
Why were these ships by Chile?
Because think what I said, the English sent simply too much of numbers. If you stayed in America, you were going to end up fighting 3 or 4 British ships at a time. So what they did is they headed to, if you were in Chile, you were basically looking for English ships trading with their colonies in South America. If you were in Africa, trading with there. It might have been trying to disrupt Oriental trade. So literally, instead of targeting British warships, we were targeting trade ships. Any questions on the naval part? Ladies and gentlemen, again, what is the key item you want to notice? By the end of the year, by the end of 1812, the U.S. Navy is effectively eliminated. Oh, let's have another question. Who would like to start? Thank you, Eli. Yes. You have a question as well?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So like, about what time would we actually have a strong navy?
1890s. Great. It'd be after the Industrial Revolution. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Colin is bored on the floor. He wants someone to join him. Please name, it can be anywhere in the course of the year. In fact, it can be a modern one if you know one. Please name a famous American Supreme Court case. Oh, Eli's going to eliminate himself. Are you out?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Marbury versus Ned.
You're back up.
Yeah.
Pick someone.
Troy.
Troy.
Come on, give it a shot.
Go. Come on, move.
Oh, Argo.
Versus Board of Education.
Ooh, modern day stuff. Go.
What? Oh, Justin.
Roe versus Wade.
Oh, we like the modern stuff. Go.
Victoria.
Fletcher versus Tech.
Get rid of someone.
Sure. Miranda versus Arizona.
Wow, look at you people.
Hannah.
I don't know if we even said all the ones from the unit, did we?
No,
Did we
No.
give it Ogden?
Yeah.
versus
Okay. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item in the war. Does everybody remember what were the 5 causes? Trade. Expansion, Indians, Warhawks, and what were we missing?
Search.
The Depression. Ladies and gentlemen, the war starts on the ocean. It makes logical sense. What would be the other logical place that we would run into conflict with the British? The Canadian border. Ladies and gentlemen, the next place we'd like to turn is along the Canadian border. There are going to be several incidents in the year 1812. And again, this is America's attempt to acquire Canada. For those of you who don't know, the United States, under several occasions, has made aggression towards Canada, and we have always failed. What can you do? Those nasty Canadians. Ladies and gentlemen, the first issue will be the Battle of Fort Detroit. Again, I want to try to keep it so it's quick and fast. I'm going to try to not go as militaristic as I'd like. Most important thing, folks, is Fort Detroit was the largest, biggest military structure of the United States in the Northwest Territory. Remember the Northwest Ordinance, this land, this was kind of the frontier land, fur trade. Fort Detroit was the largest American military outpost in that part of the country. It was commanded by William Hull. Does that name sound familiar?
Isaac Hull's brother.
It is, oh yeah, I know, you're looking at your notes from last year, otherwise that would have been really good. Am I right?
Actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, William Hull is Isaac Hull's, remember, the captain of the USS Constitution, so there was a relationship there. Here's the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, at Fort Detroit, the United States has a relatively well-stocked, a relatively strong fortress. There is over 2,000 American soldiers. What happens is the United States at Fort Detroit will be attacked by Isaac Brock, that would be the Canadian Army. Holy crap. Get beat up by Canadians. Tecumseh, the great Indian chief. And stupidity. And ladies and gentlemen, what do I mean by stupidity? What happens is here is Fort Detroit. Isaac Brock basically moves into the area. The Indians basically spread out across the wilderness. What is the importance of the Indians? Tecumseh. As William Hall tries to get information, as he sends out scouts, Tecumseh kills them all. Because Tecumseh, with his Indians, is able to control the paths and the trails. Somehow or another, William Hall is deceived, tricked into believing the British have arrived and the British are sending a force, a navy if you will, down Lake Erie. If you look at, here's Fort Detroit. Lake Erie kind of comes underneath. It would basically be below. William Hall is concerned that he is about to become trapped. Reality, the British have not arrived. Somehow or another he was tricked, he was deceived. What happens? William Hall, instead of fighting, instead of defending Fort Detroit, makes the decision to surrender the fort, and his army is largely allowed to leave. So William Hall basically chooses to have his army escape, but he allows the fort to fall. Ladies and gentlemen, can someone remind me what was one of our goals of the war? Expansion. Ladies and gentlemen, by the fall of 1812, we have lost what?
Fort.
But not the fort. The fort represents
Northwest.
Michigan. Now, Ohio could be in jeopardy. Now, the problem is Ohio by this time is a state. There's more people. It's a little bit more secure. Absolutely. Michigan, at this moment, is under Canadian English hands. With English controlling Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin are also in great danger. Ohio is a little different because it is a state. Its population is larger. It has more soldiers. Ohio is a little bit safer. But the rest of the territory would be very vulnerable. Next item. Fort Niagara. We should be able to do this one real quick too. Fort Niagara is where Niagara Falls is, and folks, what you need to understand is the Niagara River is one of the smallest or the quickest places to Canada. This was one of those examples. You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I was afraid that was actually coming down on top of you. Okay. So what we want to look at, folks, is he's going to die. The United States makes the decision to attack Fort Niagara. This is the beginning of our invasion of Canada. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the United States basically begins the invasion of Canada, and the idea is we are going to cross into Fort Niagara, and the idea is this is our invasion. We're heading towards, if you look up here, heading towards what would today be Toronto. So we are moving into Canada, we start the invasion, and why would you do Fort Niagara? Because it is kind of a crossing point on the river. And when you look at Fort Niagara, this is the part you will probably see something about on the test. The United States Army crosses, and literally, this is the way I would normally explain it. The battle is like a seesaw. The United States attacks, and we begin to win. The Canadians are falling back. The British arrive, and the battle basically goes like this. So basically, in the beginning of the day, America's winning. As the British arrive, it kind of gets fought to a draw. And as the afternoon goes, the Americans begin to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the most important thing about Fort Niagara? As the battle begins to go poorly, as the United States begins to lose, there is a fairly large, a substantial New York militia standing on the American side of the river. As the United States Army starts getting pushed backwards, as the American army begins to lose, the New York militia watches. In fact, the New York militia refuses to cross the river and support the army. At the end of the day, the American army is destroyed and captured. What is the issue you want to notice? America has historically fought with army, that is the soldiers under the Congress, militias. Militias begin to argue that their job is to protect America. Their job is to protect their homes, their state. Battle of Fort Niagara took place on Canadian soil. And in this battle, the militias argued, you can't make us join. So ladies and gentlemen, with Fort Niagara, you begin to see we have a problem with the militias. The problem is the militias believe that their responsibility is to their state, and they are not part of kind of the forum. Ladies and gentlemen, the second item is going to happen with a gentleman named Henry Dearborn. Henry Dearborn, in fact, in case you ever see a political cartoon, Henry Dearborn is a very unusual gentleman. He's a large boy. He's a big boy. In fact, probably the most famous thing about Henry Dearborn is he was so out of shape he couldn't walk anymore. So literally they built him a little cart, almost like a chariot, and he was literally wheeled around, and that was literally how he would kind of move on the battlefield. Once again, what was happening here? Henry Dearborn was planning the invasion of Montreal. So once again, we see two attacks on Canada.
This guy is one of our generals.
Hey, I didn't pick him. So here's what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, Dearborn, and again, this will happen several times. Remember, Benedict Arnold was attempting to do it in the Revolution. The United States is planning for an invasion of Montreal, and really, what is the most important thing? The reason I bring up Dearborn's name is more of the unusual character, more of the fact that he kind of sticks out in case there is some sort of a drawing or recreation. The most important thing is Dearborn's army marches up to the Canadian border, and for the second time, the militia sits down. Literally, as Dearborn plans to move into Canada, the militia sits down. They refuse to go any farther, and it becomes so bad that Dearborn literally abandons the attack because the militia refuses to obey. And the problem comes is there becomes an enormous fight over whether the militia has to follow the orders of the army or whether the militia can simply adhere to the requirements of the state. Yes?
Did you say that our militias have more loyalty to their own state?
Yeah.
Oh,
Generally speaking, because they are state militias. Now, whether they're anti-federalists or not, you might not argue, but clearly they were people that believed that their responsibility first and foremost was to protect the state.
so it's not necessarily fair.
Let's see here. We might as well get somebody else on the floor. It's always fun. Aria, would you please name a major battle or altercation of either the American Revolution or the French and Indian War?
Battle of Saratoga.
Good.
Daniel.
Ooh, pick someone. Go, go, go.
When the French and Indian War, the invasion of Montreal, that
Battle of Fort Kane. Yorktown. And,
Battle of Ticonderoga. Ellison.
I am sorry, although you did have a battle, it was not in either the Revolution or French and Indian. You are out, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, and here is kind of where we're after.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
But the militias, would they help in other states though? Would they
They will at times, and like I said, I think a lot of it is, notice what part of the country is the fighting taking place? And what did we tell you? Where did we have more opposition to the war?
North.
The Federalists. The Federalists are where?
North.
They're in the north. What we see is a lot of the militias are probably Federalists who did not support the war in principle. And what we're going to see is the Federalist Party flat out believes the war was a bad decision. So this is their way of arguing. And what's weird is the Federalists are almost supporting state rights, that the state should be the one who makes the decision, which I know doesn't sound like normal Federalist views. But folks, that's my point of politics. Politicians will switch the term. We had that question last night on the Facebook page. Sometimes politicians or political groups change their tune based on what's good for them in the current situation. For the Federalists, it was not good to support the Louisiana Purchase because it gives all the credit to Jefferson. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the biggest thing I need you to do at this point. It's the year 1813. The war has been going on for, what would that be, 6 months, roughly? The United States has lost Michigan. Our militia refuses to obey. And there is also rumor that for the first time, Napoleon Bonaparte has been defeated. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we want to point out as the year 1813 begins, the United States of America flat out is beginning to wonder, was this war a terrible idea? And how can we sort of get out of it? How can we kind of extract ourselves from it before something bad happens? The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at 1813, as much as America is going, hey, this was not a great idea, America cannot abandon the war until we get Michigan back. At this moment, if America would cut a deal, Michigan would be a part of Canada. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 1813, the number one goal is get Michigan back. And literally, what has the government really focused on now? Get Michigan back and try to work out a deal with England. I mean, literally, we kind of should be, we're not going to get Canada. The Canadians are not joining us in protest. And with that, what is the main item here? In 1813, it will be called the Battle of Put-in Bay. That is the main event. This is an item that there's probably a decent likelihood you'll see something on. Put-in Bay.
One word?
Technically, no. It's hyphen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Battle of Put-in Bay is going to focus on two commanders. These are the Americans. The two commanders will be William Henry Harrison. He is the kind of highest ranking general. He would be the real commander. And the second man is going to be a young man who emerges in the battle named Oliver Hazard Perry. I would imagine on the test you will see some reference to the two of them. Both of these men, and folks, again, why are they important? Because this is America trying to regain land that we had lost. William Henry Harrison and Oliver Perry. Oliver Hazard Perry. Folks, this is what happens. If you go back to the Indian province of Tecumseh, William Henry Harrison was already the established military leader. William Henry Harrison is leading his army, and he is heading up through Ohio towards Michigan to get to Fort Detroit. William Henry Harrison is running into an enormous problem with the natives. Harrison is constantly fighting the natives. It's guerrilla fighting. It's very difficult. As Harrison is fighting his way along, rumor begins to come out that the British have arrived, and the British have basically arrived. They have begun to send men or ships down Lake Erie. That means the British control Fort Detroit and they control Lake Erie. William Henry Harrison knows enough about military tactics to know there is no way Fort Detroit will fall if the Allies do not control the lake. William Henry Harrison, who is heading towards Fort Detroit, basically concludes, in order to recapture Fort Detroit, we must drive the British off Lake Erie.
How do they get into Lake Erie?
What you need to understand is they really are not warships. They're literally ships that were designed for the Great Lakes, or they were fishing boats, trade boats that were simply commandeered. We are going to see that in a
Where do
second.
they enter Lake
They can't get to Lake Erie. The Erie Canal is not finished yet. So literally, these are ships that are locked on the Great Lakes. So you'd build them and put them in the lake. Notice the name, Put in Bay.
So they come from Canada, right?
So the British Army basically, if that's what you're asking, the British Army would have come down the St. Lawrence River, they got to here, but then they simply stole ships on Lake Erie,
Okay.
and they're coming down.
All right.
What?
You see British.
British and English are the same.
So,
But it's the British that are controlling the lake. So here we go. Folks, what happens is Harrison makes the push by the land, and Oliver Perry agrees to take the naval assault. Folks, when you look at Oliver Perry, it's one of those things that you're going to sort of see, this is that idea of American tenacity or American determination. William Henry Harrison basically gives Oliver Hazard Perry the simple task, you must push the British back. You must keep the British from coming into Detroit by the water. Folks, the amazing thing about Oliver Perry is when he takes the assignment, he is given several months to build a navy, go out into Lake Erie, drive the British off, and when Oliver Perry is given his job, he has no army, he has no ships, and he has no supplies. So ladies and gentlemen, when we look at Oliver Hazard Perry, what you need to look at is it's really this example of kind of the old militia mentality. It's also this idea of Americans beginning to look at this, how do you accomplish a task? Oliver Hazard Perry was given a job to protect Lake Erie so that William Henry Harrison could attack Detroit. Look at the three problems. No men, no ships, no supplies. Ships, that is what Griffin already asked. He steals them. They primarily go to the lake and they simply steal fishing boats, they steal trade boats. People use the Great Lakes, they just are not connected to the ocean. Supplies. Ladies and gentlemen, Ohio is a state. They went town to town and they asked for material. They asked for metal that could be melted down. They asked for sheets and linens that could be turned into sails. Literally, people donated supplies. Ladies and gentlemen, the last item is an army. And guess what? That was the difficult one. Why is it a difficult one? Who has already come through Ohio?
British.
And when because the British came down the lakes. Ohio is American state. Folks, Harrison is heading towards Michigan, correct? As Harrison would go through Ohio, he stopped in every town, and what did he ask for? Volunteers. Ladies and gentlemen, all the young 18, 20, 22-year-old men joined Harrison. Folks, what is the one item we need to mention about Oliver Hazard Perry? In order for Oliver Hazard Perry to create an army, Oliver Hazard Perry is going to do something that today has more relevance. At this time in history, it was one of those things that maybe was ignored. In order for Oliver Hazard Perry to do what he eventually does, which will be to defeat the British Army in the Battle of Put in Bay, ladies and gentlemen, Oliver Hazard Perry went to a fugitive slave community in Ohio. Folks, by 1813, there were African Americans who were escaping slavery. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are on the floor, I do apologize. I was going to give more people a chance to answer. We will try to find ways to incorporate more review throughout the year. We'll see what works best.